Before we begin tonight's story, I need to warn you, what you're about to hear happened over 19 hours of pure terror. 4 innocent people were held captive, tortured, and murdered in one of Washington DC's most exclusive neighborhoods. This isn't just another true crime case. This is a nightmare that proves evil can knock on any door, even in the safest places. If disturbing content affects you, please consider skipping this one. For everyone else, let's dive into this story that haunts investigators today. Washington DC, May 2015. Picture this, you're driving through one of the most expensive neighborhoods in America. $1 million mansions just line the streets. Vice presidents have lived here, ambassadors call it home. It's the kind of place where the worst thing that happens is maybe a gardener shows up late. But on May the 13th, 2015, someone walked into this perfect world that would shatter it forever. Savopoulos was living the American dream. 46 years old, CEO of American Iron Works, a massive construction company. But here's what made Savvas different from other wealthy executives. He actually cared about people. Friends said he had this booming laugh that could fill a room, and he never forgot where he came from. He married his high school sweetheart, Amy. Picture the perfect couple. They were like peanut butter and jelly, friends said. Savvas has been chasing Amy since they were kids, telling everyone all she needs to do is just say yes, and that's the woman I'm going to marry. Cute. And you see, she did say yes, finally. They had 3 children together, 2 daughters at boarding school, 19-year-old Abigail and 16-year-old Katrina, and their 10-year-old son Philip, who was absolutely obsessed with go-kart racing. This kid was showing some serious promise, travelling to competitions all over with his coach Jay, who said Philip was 10-year-olds going on 35. He was just mature. The family lived in this gorgeous mansion on Wood Lane Drive. We're talking multi-million-dollar property with security systems, housekeepers, the works. They had 2 long-term employees that they considered family, Nellie, who's been working them for 20 years, and Vera, who's been there for 5 years and was actually planning to retire soon to see her children back in El Salvador. Everything was perfect. Until May the 3rd, when Philip had an accident at the go-kart track and got a concussion. Nothing serious, the doctors said, just needed to stay home and rest. That accident, well, it kept Philip home from school, and that decision would cost his family everything. Wednesday, May the 13th, it started like any other day. Amy was home taking care of Philip, who was still recovering from his concussion. She took him to the doctor for a quick checkup. Everything looked fine. Meanwhile, Savvas was out checking on his latest project, a martial arts studio in Virginia that was just about to open. He brought Nellie along to help with some last-minute cleaning. At 4:25 p.m, a dog-sitting company called Amy to confirm an upcoming appointment. The employee who talked to Amy later said something was off. Amy sounded sleepy, under the weather, not her usual chatty self. But hey, she had a sick kid at home, right? Made sense, I would be tired too. But close to 5 p.m, Savvas got a call from Amy. We don't know exactly what was said, but Savvas hung up and told Nellie he needed to go home. Amy had just made plans to go out, and he needed to look after Philip. Okay, so here's what we do know now that's absolutely chilling. Amy never made plans to go out. Someone else was making her say those words. Savvas drove home. Nellie went to her own house, planning to return to work the very next day. Vera was still at the mansion, but she was supposed to have left at 3 p.m. Her husband Bernardo was sitting at home, wondering where the hell his wife was. Vera being late without calling, that never happened. Never. He tried calling her over and over. The phone rang, then it stopped ringing. Battery dead, or it got turned off. At this point, Savvas walked into his own home thinking he's just coming back to babysit his son. But what he actually walked into was a nightmare that had already begun. What happened next can only be pieced together from phone calls, text messages, and the sick imagination of a monster. Just before 6 p.m, the security company monitoring the Savopoulos house got an alert about broken glass. But when they called, Savvas himself answered. He sounded fine, even asked how he could access security footage and where it was stored. A totally normal conversation, except Savvas was probably already tied up, with a knife to his throat, being told exactly what to say. At 9 p.m, Amy called Domino's Pizza, ordered 2 pepperoni pizzas, paid with her credit card. Before hanging up, she said something that makes my skin crawl. "Ring the doorbell. I'm caring for my sick child. Just leave it by the front door." Think about that for a second. Amy's in her own home. Why wouldn't she just answer the door? Why leave a specific instruction to leave the food outside? Because Amy wasn't the one who wanted that pizza. When the delivery driver got to the house, he followed the instructions exactly. He left the pizzas by the front door, grabbed his tip from the envelope that had been waiting for him. He noticed the porch light was on, but inside the house, completely dark, completely silent. He had no idea he was delivering dinner to a killer who was just torturing a family just feet away. At 9:35 p.m, Savvas left a voicemail for Nellie. Listen to this and pay attention to just how wrong everything sounds. "Hey Nellie, it's Savvas. I hope you get this message. Amy is in bed sick tonight, and she was sick this afternoon, and Vera offered to stay and help her out because, we're going through some stuff with Philip, so she's going to stay the night here." "Okay, thank you. Oh, and would you send me a text when you get this message just so I can make sure? Thanks, Nellie. Good night." Nellie had known this family for 20 years. Vera had never, not once, stayed overnight at the house. Ever. And in the background of the voicemail, Nellie could hear what sounded like shouting. Around the same time, Savvas called his assistant, Jordan Wallace. He couldn't get through, so he left a voicemail asking Jordan to pick up a package from American Ironworks and deliver it the next morning. Then, things got really weird. Savvas called his CFO in the middle of the night, asked for $40,000 in cash, told him to get it to Jordan ASAP. When Jordan got the package and the money, Savvas gave him very specific instructions. Don't knock on the door. Just put everything in a red sports car. Don't knock. I'll be on conference calls. Conference calls? At night? While his family was supposedly sleeping and sick. But the most terrifying part, the instructions worked. Jordan followed them perfectly. He left the money and the package in the car and just drove away. He sent a text. Package delivered. He watched his phone as those 3 dots appeared, disappeared, appeared again. Like someone was starting to type and stopping, starting and stopping, but he never got a reply. The next morning, May the 14th, neighbours started noticing things were off. By 8:30 a.m, when everyone else was leaving for work and school, all the Savopoulos cars were still in the driveway. In a neighbourhood where everyone knew everyone else's routines, this was unusual. Bernardo, Vera's husband, had just finished his night shift. His wife's still not home. Panic was setting in, so he drove to 3201 Woodland Drive and started banging on the door, ringing the doorbell. But silence, but not complete silence. He could hear shuffling inside, murmuring. The dogs were making noise, and then he heard something that would make his blood run cold. The sound of a chair being dragged across the floor. Someone was definitely inside that house. Suddenly, his phone rang. It was Savvas. "Oh, I'm sorry I didn't call you last night. Vera stayed the night with us. Amy was ill and now Vera has gone to the hospital with her. She's not here." Bernardo was standing right outside the front door. Savvas was obviously right on the other side of that same door, so why couldn't he just open it and talk face to face? But Bernardo hung up and went home. He heard from someone, so maybe everything was fine. Maybe he was just overthinking it. Meanwhile, Nelly had gotten Savvas' voicemail from the night before. She also got a text from Amy saying not to come to work. But when Nelly listened to that voicemail again, she heard something that made her stomach drop. Savvas sounded flustered and tense, and there was definitely shouting in the background. She tried calling Amy. No answer. Sent a text. I hope everything is okay. No reply. For 20 years, Nelly has been like family to these people. She knew something was desperately wrong. So at 1:30 p.m, 911 calls started flooding in. Fire! Massive fire on Woodland Drive! When firefighters battled through the flames and smoke, they found 4 bodies. In one bedroom, Savvas, Amy and Vera. In the room next door, 10-year-old Philip. His body was so badly burned, so completely destroyed, that investigators couldn't even determine his gender at first. They listed him as adult individual because there was simply nothing left to identify. Savvas, Amy and Philip were already dead. But Vera was still clinging to life. They rushed her to the hospital. Her injuries were too severe. She died shortly after. The autopsy revealed the stuff of nightmares. All 4 victims had been beaten with a baseball bat, strangled, suffocated, stabbed, bound with duct tape and zip tied. But Philip, what was done to Philip defies comprehension. In addition to being beaten and stabbed, he was attacked with a samurai sword. And then, and this is the part that truly haunts me, he may have been burned alive on his bed. The fire started in his bedroom. His injuries were so severe that the medical examiner couldn't determine if he died from torture or from the flames. All 4 bodies had been doused with gasoline before the fire was set. Amy and Vera had duct tape residue on their wrists. Savvas had been restrained with zip ties. The torture had gone on for almost 19 hours. Think about that. 19 hours! From the afternoon on May the 13th until the fire started on May the 14th. 19 hours of pure terror, of pain, of probably begging for their lives and the life of that little boy. And despite giving the killer everything he wanted, the money, the cooperation, never once calling for help or trying to escape, he murdered them anyway, in the most brutal way possible. The crime scene, it told a story of calculated evil. A single window had been smashed, bone lines had been cut. There was a boot print on one of the doors, not matching any of the firefighters' boots. A knife was found stuck in the window, propping it open like a surveillance post. The home security system computer had been ripped out of the attic, stolen. It was never found. But here's what really gets me. Neighbours reported seeing a middle-aged black man with dreadlocks entering the family's garage around noon, about 90 minutes before the fire started. He didn't just force the door open, it just opened for him, like someone inside had already opened it. The family's blue porch was missing. Security cameras caught it speeding towards Maryland right after the house went up in flames. Police found it later, burning in a church parking lot. Surveillance showed someone in dark clothing running away, carrying what looked like a white box. Inside the burned car, they found a green construction vest that somehow survived the flames, and on that vest, DNA. But here's where this case gets absolutely incredible. Remember that half-eaten Domino's pizza they found in the house? You know, the pizza that Amy ordered but obviously never ate. Crime scene investigators bagged it up instead of throwing it away, and thank God they did. They found DNA on the pizza crust, saliva, and when they ran it through the system, boom 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 boom, bingo. May 20th, exactly 1 week after the murders began, an arrest warrant was issued for 34-year-old Darren Dylan Dennis Witt. Darren's DNA was all over that crime scene. The pizza crust, the knife in the window, the green construction vest. His DNA was literally everywhere. But here's the connection that makes this even more disturbing. Darren had worked for Savvas company, American Iron Works, about 10 years earlier. Savvas was known for being friendly with all his employees, getting to know them personally. Darren had been one of those employees, until he lost his job for threatening a co-worker with a knife. After that, Darren's life spiraled. He contacted Iron Works in 2008 and 2009, begging for a second chance. He was turned down. By 2010, he was arrested at a gas station directly across from American Iron Works, armed with a pistol and a machete. His own father had taken out a protective order against him in 2005. This wasn't random, this was revenge, 10 years in the making. When the manhunt began, Darren ran, took a taxi from Washington DC all the way to New York, just trying to disappear. His girlfriend eventually called police to tell them where he might be. On May the 21st at around 11 PM, they found him in a truck with 3 other people. $100 bills were scattered across the vehicle, money that almost certainly came from that £40,000 ransom. While he was on the run, Darren had been busy on his phone, searching for things like how to beat a lie detector test, 10 hideout cities for fugitives, and countries with no extradition treaty. He knew exactly what he'd done. In 2018, 3 years later, Darren Witt went on trial. His defense: his brothers did it. He was just in another room, didn't know what was happening. Oh, and despite his DNA being on the pizza crust, his lawyer claimed Darren doesn't even like pizza and never eats pizza. Sure, like that could be a defense for anyone. His lawyer even called DNA just junk science. I'm not even making this up. The prosecution painted a clear picture. Darren entered the house around 3:30 PM on May the 13th, probably convinced Amy to let him in. She knew him from his work at the company and around the house. Once inside, he took control. When Savvas came home thinking he was just babysitting Philip while Amy went out, he walked into a hostage situation that had already been going on for hours. For 19 hours, Darren tortured this family, made them make phone calls, send texts, order pizza, despite them giving everything he wanted, the money, complete cooperation, never trying to escape or call for help. He murdered them anyway. The Savopoulos mansion was torn down in 2017. A new house stands there today. But the question remains, Abigail and Katrina lost their entire family in just one night. Parents, little brother, even Vera, who was like family. They had to say goodbye to 3 caskets at St. Severe Greek Orthodox Cathedral, while their father's killer sat in a jail cell, showing no emotion, no remorse. Vera's husband Bernardo lost his wife just as they were planning to retire together and go and see their children in El Salvador. Nellie lost the family she worked for and loved for 20 years. And what for? $40,000? Revenge over a job lost a decade earlier? The truth is, we may never know everything that happened during those 19 hours of hell on Woodland Drive, but we know enough to understand that evil doesn't always announce itself. Sometimes it wears a familiar face, sometimes it's someone we once trusted, someone who once worked for you, someone who remembers exactly where you live and how to get inside. The Savopoulos family did everything right. They gave their attacker what he wanted. They never fought back, never tried to escape, never called for help. They cooperated completely, but he just killed them anyway. If this story teaches us anything, it's that there are people in this world who are capable of the unimaginable cruelty, people who can torture a 10-year-old boy, murder an entire family, and then calmly eat pizza while the house burns around their victims. That's not just a crime, that's not even just murder, that's pure, calculated evil, and sometimes evil wins. That's tonight's story from the darkest corners of this world. If you made it through that one, you're stronger than most. Let me know in the comments what you really think happened. Was Danik Witt acting alone, or were there others involved who got away with murder? Hit subscribe button if you want more true horror stories, and I'll see you in the next nightmare. Until then, keep your doors locked.